Many years ago now, I bought a set of wind chimes, an expensive set of wind chimes, with the sole intention of using them to improvise with my friends Sal and Sam at a concert and to return them afterwards. And apparently, the folks at the shop must have picked up what we were doing because we must have been trying out the wind chimes and talking about how it could work as a certain scale or something, because when I went to bring them back on Monday after the concert, the woman at the desk was like, "So, how did the concert go? Did it work out?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't realize that you knew that that's what we were getting these for." And she was like, "Yeah, no problem. That's cool. But how did it go?" And I was like, "Oh, wow. No, it went really well." So the idea was, if you had a prompt, if you had a certain group of notes, that we could use that to then improvise around. And we created all these loops and sound-on-sound experiments. But just starting with an idea, a little prompt, gave us something to go off of. And that has been something that's stuck with me. You can start with pretty much anything, and you can create music from it if you just start with any sort of prompt, a consistent little group of ideas or a collection of notes. So we're going to talk today about Take This, Make It Funky on Earth Tones episode 33. Yep, you can start with pretty much anything and you can make it funky. But the first thing we're going to listen to is our Earth Sound 33 from our beautiful Earth. That you might not even be able to hear if you're listening to this episode in the car, because that's the sound of the highway. That's my wife Scarlett and I going across the bridge on foot in Charlestown, and I said, "Oh, this is the sound of many cars going by. Let's grab a snippet of that." All right, for a bit of old news this week on Earth Tones, I've got this old copy of Guitar World. It's from 2020, and Eric Gales was talking about some of his experiences, and I thought this was a pretty great little snippet. He said, this is Eric Gales in Guitar World, he said, "Stevie Ray Vaughan would have been one of the biggest influences in me wanting that Strat, of course. I was lucky enough to see him and meet him when I was 15. We ended up hanging out for a bit. He was doing tracks for Family Style, which is a Vaughan Brothers album, and I was cutting demos for my first record. So we sat down, talked, and even played together on a couple of acoustics. That's how we met, and it was very, very cool. An experience I'll never forget." So for a bit of old news this week, that is Eric Gales getting a chance to actually jam with the great Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now, Eric Gales has had a really interesting life, and I'm glad to see that he's experiencing a whole lot of social media and YouTube popularity and everything. He's been championed by Joe Bonamassa and all sorts of people. He's a fantastic guitar player, and he's been through a lot in life, and he plays his butt off is what he does. Mr. Eric Gales meets and jams with the late, great Stevie Ray Vaughan. All right, for the main discussion of this week, Take This and Make It Funky. Episode 33, here it is. Take this, make it funky. This week I was working with a student, and we were talking about developing musicality. He expressed that he felt that his playing felt very mechanical. I showed him that we can take a single phrase of a song, or even a single note, and work on playing just that over and over again to develop that inner sense of the subdivision and groove. We often are learning so many things at once, but demonstrating the information of an entire song is just one aspect of playing music. Tone, rhythmic feel, and dynamics are all areas we can improve in that aren't just playing the right notes in the right order. And there are countless other areas to work on too. There are prompts we can give ourselves, a collection of notes, a phrase, a rhythm, that can serve as the information, and then we can focus on making it more musical. Instead of going after more and more information, you can take something simple and work on all of those other areas of musicality you're looking to improve in. So that's the idea. If you take something simple and then you say, well, let me make that sound really groovy, you can take that little snippet and work on so many other areas of music. And that, I think, is something that, doesn't get discussed all that much. Just saying, okay, which area am I going to work on right now? With singing lessons, that's been helpful to think about, well, let's just work on one aspect at a time. Let's not evaluate your voice as being good or bad. Let's think about, can we work on dynamics? Can we work on, like different ways of pronouncing certain syllables? Just being extremely objective, not even how you say those words, but how do you make those sounds of those syllables? Because you can change how you make a certain sound like ah into ah or eh. And with a subtle change, that'll have an impact on how you sing a song. But we're staying really objective about something specific. So I think with music, you can take a little snippet, you can take a prompt, and you can have that become either a piece of music or a whole practice session that allows you to connect to those deeper, more important almost areas of music. Of course, knowing the notes of the song is important, but developing your musicality is also important. And if you're playing musically and expressively, then you're enjoying it probably a lot more than if you weren't. And you're more inclined to then learn more information, learn more notes, learn more songs. And that's another thing, is talking about memorizing the information and finding some ways to do that. But first, let's think about a musical demonstration. Say I grab just a group of notes. I'm going to play. Those don't feel like a group I would have immediately chosen. I can hear that it sounds like it's C, down a whole step, of course. So, sol, do, re, mi, sol, do. Even though I thought of starting with this as my first note. So let me just think about what I could play. All I've done is chosen at random, more or less, some notes. Let me think about something I can work on with just those notes. Now I've got a little phrase that is just what I played instinctively. But let me work on dynamics now. So I'm playing it soft and then getting louder. I can do the opposite. Quiet, loud, then soft again. Now I'm just doing a little variation to increase the groove a little bit. Maybe I can work on space. So I just sat one of them out. So I'm taking something that is very simple, and I'm choosing areas to work on that have to do with developing musicality without having to think more about information like what notes I'm going to play or how the piece of music goes. It doesn't go anything other than just that very simple little motif, but I can develop musicality at the same time. And if I was playing electric, maybe I could play with different effects pedals, or I could change the sound on the amp or change where I'm picking on the instrument. There's a million things you could do by just saying, let's stay with just this little snippet of something and work on all of the areas of musicality that aren't the information about the notes. So there's your musical demonstration for today. What is on the turntable this week? I'm going to be hosting my first music listening hangout at the studio this Tuesday, and this is the album that I've got for it. This is The White Stripes' Get Behind Me Satan 20th anniversary. So Get Behind Me Satan was released in 2005, and this special edition came out last summer in 2025. And so I just picked it up. It's on heavyweight colored vinyl. It looks beautiful. It's incredible. I had this on CD, and then I have, of course, listened to it on streaming all these years since. But having it on vinyl is amazing. 4 sides, a double album. So we're going to be listening to that. Anybody who comes by the studio this Tuesday is going to check it out with me. It sounds great. I've only listened to one side so far, but it's really beautiful. So something that helped me this week, creative memorization. So say you are working on the information side of music. You got to find a way to get it in your brain, and you got to be able to express it without like getting anxious. And so I was learning Lay Down Sally, the Eric Clapton song. I want to add it to my solo set. And usually it takes me a while to learn a song and feel confident enough to put it into my solo set. This week I was thinking, if I attack that problem of memorization head on, how far can I get in like 2 days? So on Tuesday I started working on Lay Down Sally, and yesterday, I sang it for the first time on a gig. And I did have my lyric sheet, but I wasn't referencing it very closely. I wanted it there just to make sure I could do it, to get the first time playing it out of the way. But I had really worked on memorizing it, and what I did was I just got creative with it. I talked to ChatGPT about the lyrics. I turned it into just like a story, and I thought about the story of each verse. I know it's a very simple song. Essentially, he's asking this woman, who apparently has other things to do, to spend the night and to talk to him all night. It's neither here nor there. But so the story is, first verse, won't you stay the night? The second verse is, it's really not even that late yet. The sun hasn't come up yet. And then the last verse is, and when the morning does come, I hope that you'll still be here. And so breaking it down into a story and getting creative with how I memorize, instead of just trying to grab the lyrics themselves one at a time and forgetting them and having to go back and start over, I found that it gave my brain more things to connect to. And I'm sure that may be obvious for a lot of people, but I want to do more of that. That's something that helped me this week, just applying creativity to memorization and learning, just instead of diving right into however way I've always done it, to just say, let me stop and let me find a way to be creative with how I'm learning to do this new thing. So that is episode 33 on Earth Tones. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it as always. I am Jake Pardee, your host. You can visit jakepardee.com for more information about me and my music, maritimerecording.com for more information about you and your music, and I will see you next week for Earth Tones episode 34.